Hello, everybody. We'll give a couple folks a few minutes to sit down and find seats before we get started. Welcome back from lunch. Welcome to Summit. I'm really excited for our next talk, Automate the Atlassian, the Lazy Admin's Guide. Now our speaker is anything but lazy. This man runs marathons. He's an avid ping pong player. But most of all, he's all about finding efficiencies, working smarter, not harder. With over 13 years experience working on Atlassian products and tools, he's worked for companies like Cisco, he's worked for Pandora, and now he's currently the senior DevOps engineer at Tesla, so he's helping them drive better work forward. We're really excited, and without further ado, I'll welcome to the stage Raju Kadam. Thank you.
Thanks. Hello. Miles, thank you for a kind introduction. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to be here. So before we get started, how many of you are currently managing Atlassian applications? Wow, that's quite a good number. And how many of you want to be lazy? 13 years back, when I was first introduced Atlassian products, I was given a task of managing Jira and Confluence. It was a consulting gig. Prior to that, I had no system administration experience, neither any application administration hands-on. As I started using this application, I had a good feeling. And looking at growing user base for both these applications, it was clear that I was not alone. But pretty soon, I realized, as a single admin, managing these applications and user support demand was really crazy uphill task. There were too many requests to handle and very less time to complete them. Every time I finish all the things in my queue, another used to pop up into my ticketing queue. In order to meet these demands, I knew I had to scale up. I had to make a clone of myself. I had to find out alternatives to make things working efficiently in a timely manner. While managing my work, I had to perform many tasks repeatedly, which are very boring in nature, time-consuming, but they had a very clear pattern of execution. Also, I have to kind of update or reply similar cases every now and then. So I have to provide consistent response to similar user requests. So how we can get all things done in an efficiently and timely manner? For all this situation, I found the answer in automation. And it completely resonates with my motto. I can be as lazy as I need to be. Sorry. I can work as hard as I have to if it means I can be lazy later. Here is a quick glance at the areas that we are going to talk as a part of this particular session. We'll have question and answer session at the end. I already covered first section, why one should automate. Now, next few minutes, I'll be talking about 9 problems that I face in a world of Atlassian applications, and what are different automation, integration I put in place, which in turn helped me to gain more time so that I could stay lazy or work on other priorities. Sounds good? Here is the first example that we'll be talking about. In earlier days, for every new Confluence wiki space creation request, along with the creation of the new wiki space, I used to create 2 user groups, one for space admins and one for users. Idea behind was that by doing this, I don't have to add every individual user to the given wiki space along with adding the specific set of permissions. It was a good approach, but it had a drawback. Now, in order to add users to these user groups, everybody has to depend on me. Now, suddenly, I was a bottleneck, which I didn't like at all. I rather wanted to delegate this responsibility to space admins who are the right people to manage users in their wiki spaces. But out of box, Confluence had no way to achieve it. Neither I knew how to implement it. Right around this time, Atlassian announced their first code guest competition. They also hosted a meetup in order to developers get started. I knew this was my window of opportunity. During meetup, a bunch of Atlassians were sitting across the table in order to help developers. I was asked to sit with a man wearing a hat. He helped me to understand how I can implement a solution using Atlassian SDK. I came back home with a lot of excitement. I ended up spending next few days, I should say nights, sleepless nights, in order to make this plugin, as we used to call back then, working just before submission deadline. I still remember I was working through all the night till 5 a.m. in the morning, and my plugin finally started working. And at 8 a.m. was the submission deadline. Few days later, Atlassian Code Guest winners' results were announced. And guess what? No, I didn't win. But that didn't matter at all, because by then, I had a lot more reason to celebrate. My add-on was already in production and helping space admins to add and remove users from their wiki spaces. This, in turn, started saving 30 to 40% of my time, which now I was able to divert to other long-time pending tasks which were waiting on me. Second, now I figured out how to develop a plugin if I need to using Atlassian SDK. And that's not all. I really got a cool t-shirt that said this. By the way, can anyone of you make a guess who is a man with the hat I'm talking about who helped me? Any guesses? Yes, that was Mike Cannon-Brooks. Can you believe it? Here I am writing my first add-on in my life. And here, Atlassian founder sitting next to me to help me to make it reality. Pretty cool, right? I guess I was lucky here. Thanks, Mike, for your kind help. By the way, the design paper that I was showing earlier, that's Mike's handwriting. I still have that paper with me. It's a treasure for me now. Anyways, later me and mainly Gary Weaver maintained it as an open source add-on for a few years. Starting last year, this has become a fully commercial add-on backed by Andy Brook and his team at Plugin People. While working for a music streaming company, our executive leadership team has asked us to figure it out ways to conduct performance reviews within Confluence. To make this happen, first, I had to create personal wiki spaces for all our employees. Then, create a secure wiki page setup within this particular wiki space to which only given employee, his manager, and all HR team can have access, all the content that will be published within it. We needed to create this setup in 2 weeks on behalf of all our employees, so that later HR can share guidelines on how performance reviews will be conducted. If you are a Confluence admin, you'll remember, as an administrator, you cannot create personal wiki space. Rather, every individual user has to create that wiki space by themselves. So I use one hack to accomplish this task on behalf of a given user. Along with SU plugin for Confluence and browser automation, I was able to create this setup for all our 2,000 plus employees. Our HR team was very happy with setup, and also delighted to know that I have helped them to save more than 100K in a cost, as we don't have to buy outside solution in order to conduct performance reviews. As a reward, I got a lunch date with our CEO founder, Tim Westergren. Few years back, there was no good solution available to get Confluence wiki metrics. So I implemented a way to get these metrics, such as how many views, edits per wiki page, per wiki space, or per given user, by extracting these details through Confluence access logs. This was my second entry to Atlassian Code Guest competition. Please note that Mike did not help me here at all. Neither did Avin. Recently, we started using page view for Confluence, as it provides all this information in a simple, user-friendly interface. Also, cost is very less compared to other options available in Atlassian Marketplace. In all companies that I have worked so far, Jira is used across all different departments, such as finance, sales, HR, marketing, and of course, engineering. Every now and then, these teams need Jira issues data in order to analyze their team performance. To get better data analytics, data is often requested in CSV format so that it can feed to external tools such as Tableau to get better analytics. Downloading thousands of issues again and again by users, especially during the business peak hours, was really impacting our Jira performance. Also, many of these business users just needed this data in the CSV format at a given time, say daily, weekly, quarterly, or monthly. So I ended up implementing this toolkit, which allow us as a Jira admins to create these CSVs on demand at a given time and send them in an email to the given user. This toolkit is available on GitHub if you want to give a try. Many of the admin tasks are really mundane. There are no real APIs available to automate them either. If you are like us, you must be having one production instance, then one stage instance, which is close replica of production, and one dev instance, where you really like to break the things, figure it out, before you promote certain things to your stage or dev instance, right? We wanted these our test instances to have a different look and feel every time we get data refresh from our production instance. Also, we wanted to have disable the notification schemes on our test Jira instances. Similarly, we wanted to proactively monitor our Jira mail queue so that we will know in advance if our users are getting Jira notifications or not. Same was true for our LDAP sync status for all Atlassian applications, because it used to go down every now and then, and users to complain, I can't get access for certain things. Clicking bunch of buttons again and again to perform this task again and again was just a waste of my time, and probably yours too. So I automated this task through browser automation using Python, Selenium, and headless browser such as Chrome driver. It is fully functional working command line application available via GitHub if you are curious how it works. How many of you are like me who has to manage Jira instance with tons of custom fields? Do you also have to add hundreds of options to select list or edit them every now and then? It gets really worse with the cascade field updates. I really used to hate when I was given a task to add or update option to custom fields. No, no, no. That's what my mind used to shout at me. You're not born to do this. Earlier, I had implemented ugly browser automation to avoid this laborious task. But now, I have a good news for you all. Custom Field Editor plugin for Jira, this does all the things that Jira admin wish for. It provides a rich set of REST APIs that one can use to add or remove updates or options to custom field programmatically. You can also use their better and easier user interface to manage custom fields. And if you're like me, you can definitely delegate this task to your power users, saving yourself some good amount of time. And the best part is, this is a free plugin. I think this plugin has not got the much needed attention, and as a Jira admin, you should definitely give it a try. I really hope it works for your Jira instance. As a mandate, we have to integrate Atlassian products with our single sign-on solution provider, such as OneLogin. There were not great alternatives available back then. For Confluence and Jira, we use open source solution provided by BTM. But we have to make a lot of changes in order to make it working with the newer version of Jira and Confluence that we were using. I'm happy to say that my changes were merged back into the main add-on so that later they were made available to the end-user community. But when it was time to integrate Bitbucket Server with our single sign-on solution, we couldn't find any better working option. So I ended up developing our own open source solution from scratch. Many thanks to Atlassian team, especially Tim Peterson and Michael himself from Bitbucket Server team, for all guidance over the course of this add-on development. I also want to thank Pandora for allowing me to develop this open source add-on. Atlassian products offer really wide range of options to get things done. But sometimes this is not enough. Our users like to use, I would say abuse, by asking us to customize Jira workflows way beyond its out-of-box capabilities. Same is true for validation of the user input during the issue creation. And for all this customization and crazy automation requests, we rely on Adaptive Script Runner. It does all this and goes way beyond so that Jira administrators can accommodate all crazy workflow automation requests. Sometimes I really wonder how I could have survived without this add-on. I have been using this add-on since Jamie Acklin was a one-man army supporting this as an open source add-on. With Adaptivist coming on board, I think things are just getting better, if you ask me. Are you still there with me? This is the last example that we'll be talking about. In our company, we had multiple instances of Confluence, each one serving specific purpose. Same was true for our Jira and Bitbucket instances. Hence, as you can guess, not every user has access to all content published within these all instances that I'm talking about. And guess what? Result was we're getting tons of access requests there every day. as you can see, this process was pretty much manual. Users need to send us an email saying that this is the link to which they need a read or read-write access. Then we, as admins, in turn used to find out who is the space admin, who is the Bitbucket project admin or Jira project admin, and add them into that particular email chain. After one of these admin approve via email, we used to go ahead and add that particular person or set of people to given particular resource. Again, this was not a fun thing to do, especially when you're doing this same activity more than 50 times a day. It was a big no for me. Neither me nor my colleagues were born to do this. Another disadvantage of this approach is there are no metrics available later if you want to show to your management how busy you are or how many cases you have worked upon. Also, another problem is we really don't know if one of my colleagues is working with somebody else through email. There's no transfer about it if somebody directly emailed to them. So I automated this whole process using Jira Service Desk Portal and this Python-based custom automation framework, CARMA. In this brave new world, user logs into our GST portal and creates access requests with 3 parameters that are input to us. 1, link to which they need access. 2, type of access that need, whether it's a read or read-write. And 3, comma-separated list of the people who need access to this particular resource. Every 2 hours or so, our CARMA bot tries to find out all the cases that are newly created, and then, using smart approach, find out who are the corresponding space admins, or Jira project admins, or Bitbucket project admins, and add them as an approver to this particular ticket. At this particular time, request transition into waiting for approval, because we are waiting for approvers to give us a green signal. Once request has been approved, it goes into ready for deployment. What it means, our bot is really waiting for next execution time. And during the next execution time, our bot finds out all the cases which have been approved and a pending state, and then go out and grant the access to all the resources automatically. And then request is marked as resolved. And yes, now we can get all metrics that we can show to our management how bots are saving our lives. Now this automated process takes care of our 70 to 80% of daily quota of access requests. Thanks God. Now I really get some good amount of time to play ping pong. By the way, the guy who's just standing, that's me. That's the way I play ping pong. There are a couple of scenarios where we're still doing it manually. As I mentioned, it's just 70 to 80% of the cases taken. I can illustrate 2 cases specifically. First, access request to the restricted wiki page. And this is due to there is a bug in the Confluence API which doesn't allow us to find out which is the parent page at which restrictions are in place. And second, for all Jira issue requests where we have multiple issue level securities have been applied. Otherwise, for everything else, there's CARMA. So question must be coming to your mind. Which tools you can use to automate some of the painful tasks that you have to do every day, right? And my answer is use all the tools that you got to make magic happen. Here is my tool set. And by the way, I'm very eager to know what are the tools and tips that you guys have in order to share with me. As a lazy guy, whenever I see or hear word rest, I just stop there for a minute to find out how we can make my life easy. Jokes apart. Really, your best friend is the REST APIs. All Atlassian products offers rich set of APIs that one can leverage in writing small, simple scripts to automate some of the boring tasks. Generally, I first give a try in Postman or REST API client. Once I get a fair idea of the input JSON that we have to give an output of the JSON for a given specific API call, next time is for interactive development. I prefer Jupyter Lab for this purpose. How many of you heard about this? It's a latest release replacing Jupyter Notebook, if you already know. Later, I use VS Code to develop a solution that can be deployed to production. If you really don't want to deal with REST APIs, you can use open source Python Jira library. It really makes interaction with the Jira very easy. It provides rich set of functions that one can use to access Jira in order to get desired data or perform necessary updates. XML RPC calls are still needed if you are interacting with the Confluence programmatically. For example, if you have to add users to a given group, or if you have to deal with a space permission management. And in fact, last week, I was trying to add a category to a wiki space. Again, XML RPC calls is the only way to go. Remember, these calls had been deprecated long time back. In fact, Atlassian crew told me not to put this slide. In fact, but in my humble opinion, these calls are still working and fully supported, kind of supported by Atlassian because there is no easy replacement given for them. As we get better REST APIs in favor of them, expect this call to be dropped off from next version without any further notice. Aha moment occurred to me when I first learned about browser automation. I still remember my colleague at Pandora, Patrick Lee, he showed me how to do it using Ruby. I felt very powerful after learning this new trick. I was literally jumping with joy at my desk. Now I use it for all scenarios where we are not lucky, especially in automating the administration tasks. I generally use Python along with Selenium and headless browser. One thing to keep in mind, this is a bit ugly way of doing automation, if you ask me. Because what we are really trying to do here is mimic the user-browser interaction. That means we really have to make sure what time the given page will be loaded so that you can make a specific certain calls. Also, you have to figure it out how to provide the user input while the browser is kind of a headless browser is working for you. So use it only when you don't have any other options. And if none of these options work for you, maybe writing your own custom solution, such as CARMA, or using Atlassian SDK to get a solution for you is the way to go. Let's pause here for a second and ask ourselves a question. Should I automate everything? And will my job be secure after I automate everything? My view is sometimes it is not necessary or overkill to automate a certain task. Again, this is based on situation to situation. For example, if given process keep changing, then it may not be a good candidate for automation. Because it means your efforts are going to be obsolete very next time there's a change in the process. Another thing, let's assume you're doing certain tasks once every month, maybe probably 2 hours every month. And you really hate to do it manually. But if you compare time it needs to automate, let's say a few days, versus actual time to perform, then it may be evident that doing it manually makes sense, though you really hate it. Also, there are many places where we as a human beings need to take decisions. And those situations also we cannot automate either. Also, one good thing is Atlassian marketplace has become really mature now. Chances are the problem that you are trying to solve may be already solved and available as a kind of a ready-made solution for you. So if you have budget in place, this is the ready-made way to go. And forget about all the things that I told you just now. So far we have learned why one should automate certain tasks. 9 real-world examples where I use automation to get things done efficiently and very effectively, saving time and energy for me so that I can focus on something really useful. Then tools that you can use to get rid of repetitive tasks. And finally, situations where automation may not be applicable. That's pretty much I have to say about my experience with this lovely Atlassian application tools. And now I'm going to open the floor for questions on this topic. Thank you. Thank you. We still have 8 minutes. Your mic there.
Okay. You have told us about using script runner. What is your experience with using inline programming of scripts or using server-stored scripts?
So I'm using Groovy mainly for the script runner. And that's pretty much I have been using for a long time. So when this plugin was made available in 2009 something, there was no other solution available. So we started using this thing and just kind of got myself comfortable with the Groovy as it kind of over the time as we use it.
Thank you.
Hello. Wanted to ask what permission scheme do you usually use for Confluence? Do you provide access for each user in the space, or you use group for space, or whatever? Thank you.
So it's depend upon, correct? If you have a very busy Confluence instance, and if you get a lot of users to add every now and then, right? Then it makes sense to make the groups. Because what I've seen is many times space admins are the ones kind of special people who need more access. And the rest of the janta is kind of, we have to give same access. So putting them in a bucket really makes sense. And that's where that plugin was born, because otherwise it was just kind of making it too much to kind of repeat same task again and again. And also if you know, adding certain permissions in a Confluence is not really easy. You have to kind of remember, add view, add permission, add comment, add blog. I don't know why it is there, but yeah, something like that.
Hi. I just saw that you automate the access, but you seem to leave them in pending and treat them in batch. Can you explain what's the?
So when user request comes to us, correct? They are not really urgent. We can do in 24 hours. We have a 24-hour SLA. So what it means, we can get them together and do in as a bulk. So I thought about different approaches. One of the first approach was maybe we provide a webhook. So every time new request comes, immediately try to find out who are the space owners, who are the space admins. Then given the number of requests we came to us, we said, let's take it easy. Let's make it a batch. And I think that's really perfectly working for us right now, because it really kind of combines everything. And it also sent us an email once every time execution happens. These are the requests that have been executed successfully. Request email has been sent to space admin, or access has been granted. And some of these particular cases where we are not able to give access for some reason, because it's still evolving kind of automation. So for example, though how many times we tell people, correct, they don't provide a URL. It might be, say, I just need access. So for that particular time, we have to put them in a bucket of 20% that I told about, correct, and handle them manually. So that's the reason bulk automation is really kind of helping us in doing it in a batch-wise. Also, if any one of you guys want to know where the code is available, most of the code that I talked about is available in my GitHub account. And also, if you like to know more about how exactly you can do in detail, you can just read my world-famous blog, which I just created last week. There are 2 entries available. But you have to go to the really navigation menu. Under navigation menu, you can see 2 options. Atlassian Summit 2018, where it's list my 2 talks that I'm going to do. This is one and the next one. And 2013. And also, it provides some of the tricks that I found very useful, especially if you want to use OAuth with Jira. And I learned very hard way, whatever the documentation Atlassian has provided is not really helpful to make that OAuth dance. You really have to dance a lot. So you can find this documentation helpful.
Raju, let's do one last question.
OK, thank you.
Actually, 2 questions. One of them you just touched on, which is OAuth with Jira. And I don't think there's OAuth in Confluence, which is
that's right.
Which is a problem with automation. That's the one place where human intervention is necessary that's unrelated to decisions. Any tips on how to handle that?
So if we don't have OAuth in place, so what we do is generally we use our regular user credentials. And it's not a right way to do it, but what we do on our script, wherever our script is running, we make it a read-only and only available to the space admin, or sorry, only available to we as admins, so that credentials will not be really kind of access available to anybody. And some of the kits that I mentioned, correct, Jira Issue Export Toolkit, or maybe one of the Automate the Atlassian toolkit, I'm still using the user ID and password as my input. So we can still give them as a cron job input. It's not the ideal way, but I hope Atlassians are listening here and they will provide it.
Yes. The other one is, you mentioned there are certain things you can do with the XML RPC that you can't do with the rest at this point. Do you have some examples about that? And
a lot. Space permission management. And then adding users to user group, or the categories, as I mentioned, if you want to add a category. Just now, last week, I was working on it, and I had to add a category to our 500 wiki spaces. I'm not going to do it manually. So I had to find out, and again, REST APIs are not there. So I found out in XML RPC calls, by the way, those XML RPC calls are deprecated in 2004. I don't know why they deprecated so early when you don't have anything solution in place. But anyway, so we have to still use that and make that work for you. And with Jupyter Lab and the Python, I think life is very easy. You should try. Thank you, guys. And last but least, in another hour, I'll be talking on the 5 tips, or I should say few tips every admin should know in Theater A. If you're not bored with me here, you can definitely see me again. Thank you, guys. Thank you.